Hey everyone, it's Dinosa, and I've been asked to do a review on a movie called Bully, which was a documentary about 5 kids being bullied in the Midwest, or the Mideast, such as Georgia, Virginia, Iowa, those areas, and to kind of describe my opinions and my experience with bullying and what I thought about the whole article, or not article, but the whole documentary. And I admit it was not exactly a pleasurable experience because it brought back a lot of memories, a lot of things I wish I still forgot. And but I'm hopefully that what I say here may have some benefit to some people. The first thing, what it does, talks about these 5 kids. One of them committed suicide in a closet. His name was Ty. Then there was this Alex and 3 other people. And 3 other people. One went to a psychiatric ward. One did all this. Oh, and ironically, only 4 out of the 5 the film was dedicated to. The last person, the 5th one, was not in the dedication. I'll let you figure out who that was. So, anyway, the whole film circles around bullying in America. Being bullied in America and how to handle that, and me being a victim of bullying, and I thought I was doing it. Now, originally I wasn't going to do this because I had like finals and all this other work I needed to get done. However, today I got the news that this one kid named Bailey, who was beaten down during a recess and got seizures, and the doctors put him in a medically induced coma, died. Because these kids beat this kid, these bullies. And that's, between this kid's Ty's suicide and this other kid Bailey dying, I felt maybe I should do this video today. Maybe I can reach out to someone to tell them the truth about what the administrations don't want to tell you. You see, looking at the film, there's one consistent thing, and there's several bullet points, and there's going to be 3 parts to this video probably. It's going to be like 30 minutes long, or around that time. But there's a lot to cover. In my experience with being bullied, is that the administration, they are there in theory. They're there by legality. They're not there because they want to be there. Now, I'll go into detail. What it was is that this administrations of these counties were approached with information to show the bullying that was happening to these 5 kids and how bad things got. And some of them lashed out, such as Jemiah, one of the 5th kids, pulled a gun on her students or her classmates in a bus because she had it so much. And she just snapped. She didn't kill anybody, she just pulled a gun. So I'm tired of it. And I can attest to you that anyone who's been bullied, they get to that point. Unfortunately, there's many cowards out there who got to those points as well. And they do the same thing. They get a gun. And they think it's going to solve all their problems. And nothing. And it won't. It'll just make things worse. Here's the reality of all this. They want to blame the guns. They want to blame this. That's not the problem. There's 2 major problems with this. The first major problem with bullying in America is, number 1, the administration. Now, what I mean by that is the lawyers and lawmakers have taken the teeth away from schools to govern, to discipline, to take action against students. They basically tell them that they want these students cattled into these schools and they don't want problems. And if there's problems, a certain principal will be fired. They're not interested in solving problems. They're interested in avoiding lawsuits. That's the truth. Really? And you wonder why. Because throughout this film, the administration was approached with many and much evidence saying, look what's happening to these kids. Look what is going on. And they go, well, I'll take care of it. Really? And then they talk to the kids. And one of the funniest things I laugh about now, because I'm older and I'm wiser and I understand the BS side of it, is they threaten these kids their permanent records. Ooh. I wish I had the knowledge now back then with permanent records, because permanent records only means permanent records with that school. It doesn't matter. You go to a JC and you can take whatever action your permanent record, and it's not going to matter. They're not going to take you. Or you go to online school, it won't matter. So that's how effective the permanent record is. So whatever. But they threaten these kids because the kids don't know any better. Their fear of the unknown and the fact that adults telling them these things. So what they do is the lawmakers basically don't give any weapons to effectively teach and discipline these kids for actions that are just inexcusable. And one of the people, Alex, was threatened with a knife in the thing. And Alex was so afraid to say anything because he thought it would just make it worse, because he didn't trust the administration. And that's the failure of the administration, because it's a lack of trust. Now you might say, oh, I'm being cruel. No, I'm not. Because I have been the victim of an administration. See, it doesn't matter if you're in a public school or a private school. I went to a private school. And let me tell you, private high school-wise, if you were not part of a certain group, you didn't get carte blanche. You didn't get to go out and kind of do whatever or think whatever. You know, private schools have an interesting way of changing rules around to suit their political ends. And that happened to me quite a number of times. Sometimes it was directly at me, sometimes it was directed to other people, but that politically it changed frequently. Unfortunately, I found out all this stuff later. Doesn't make any difference now. I probably wouldn't have done anything about it. Or the buzzword they would use is insubordination. You know, that's the school's favorite word. It's insubordination. They use insubordination because it's like a buzzword. It's like, oh, no, insubordination, that term is like when you are just, you know, you're like yelling at a teacher, you know, F you, F that, you're just going, that's insubordination. Now here's the thing. During this video, one of the sequences of the administration is that this one bully was pushing another bully or hitting him in the back. And the assistant principal, in her infinite wisdom, brought these two kids together. Now, the assistant principal told these two kids to shake hands. The bully puts his hand out almost immediately. The victim is like, no, I'm not shaking his hand. Then the assistant principal turns on the victim and somehow twists the whole situation as his fault, and he's being the aggressor. The bully is not thinking that. The bully is just going to do whatever it takes to get out of there and get out of trouble. That's the truth. The victims are the ones that are not being spoken for. The victims are the ones that are willing to stand up and say, I'm not shaking your hand, you're out of line. I don't respect you. I want nothing to do with you. But yet they force you to. And they give you the speech how you're not being any better. Really? Because what will happen later on that day is that bully's just going to keep continuing. You see, one of the biggest sins the administrations have right now is they're not interested in teaching kids. They're interested in putting them in schools, teaching them whatever the standard is to get the state funding, whatever, and just moving on. Really? And you think I'm full of it? Really? Then why are there charter schools? Why did some schools now, what they did is these public schools, is these honor students went to the public schools, but the honor students' parents complained that they didn't want their honor students with the jocks. So they pulled the honor students out of the regular public school to put them into a charter school so all they can do is focus on economics. So your solution is to take the honor students away from the jocks so they can focus on schoolwork, but then all you have there remaining is a bunch of brain-dead meatheads. Now, in a way, that helps the skills, but it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem at all. All it does is create a division of labor. You have those who think and those who lift. Did our founding fathers really want that? Did teachers want to do that? And you know what, the teachers that are at the jock school, their duty is just to pass them the C. They don't care. Because it's not worth their time. That's the truth. And this doesn't matter if this is a private school or a public school. The administrations are only there to prevent lawsuits and to protect their own interest. And that mainly means is that they're not getting in the middle of domestic disputes because teachers have lost their lives over that. Now here's the thing. When I grew up in the 50s, and I grew up in the 70s, but even before that, 50s and 60s, if you acted like some of these kids that I saw in this video, one of them threatened to bring a knife, you acted like this in the 50s and 60s, and this word got back to your parents, you didn't want to go home. You knew what was there. You didn't want to go. You would be bloody. They'd whip you to death. Well, maybe not to death, but that's the point. There was fear there. Now there's no fear. There's no teeth. That's one major sin, is that they're nothing. So now that you know the administration is not really for you, they're really for their own selves. Okay, and promoting their own self-interest at the same time avoid lawsuit. Here's the other major sin that the administrations do, is that they teach these kids, and they do this in the schools, that everyone is a winner. Really? Everyone's a winner. I've heard this one too before. So then how can there be a basketball team? How could there be a soccer, football team? How could there be that? If everybody's a winner, then why is their score being kept? Why do we have grades? Here's some examples to think about. If everybody's a winner and the San Francisco 49ers didn't win the Super Bowl, what happened? They're losers. In the Oakland A's in the '88 World Series against the LA Dodgers, when statistically